Should you move to Denver? That's going to be the question that we answer in this video. Now, before we go too far, since this might be a long one, keep in mind this is a parody video. If you're looking for hardcore, real information, this isn't that video. So I'll remind you of that a couple times so that if somebody's listening halfway, they didn't really get the message. I don't want you sitting there listening thinking, well, this is the weirdest information I've ever heard in my life. Because it's going to be. So should you move to Denver? I mean, why not? First of all, off the top of my head, why not? Where else are you going to go? North Dakota? Come on. You're not going to North Dakota. The middle of Florida, and I mean like the middle, not the oceans. In the middle? No, you're not going to move there. You're not. Maine? Are you going to move to Maine? You're not going to move to Maine. I don't see you doing it. I just don't. In 3 months, I'll bet you any money you're not in Maine if you're not there now. So, of course, you should move to Denver. Mountains, fresh air, all that stuff. Let's go through it. We're going to talk about some pros. We're going to talk about some cons. I would say stretch out. Take your boots off. Take your shoes off. Put your striped socks up on the coffee table. Break out, call the pizza man. Get a pizza coming over, pizza lady. Because this one's going to take it. We're going to just stretch out a bit and give you the information that you didn't really want. All right, well, let's talk about the weather. Of course, it's a mountainous area. It's right next to the mountains, but it's also on the high plains, what I call the flatland. You got your flatland and you got your mountains, which I call the jagged edges. So the weather travels, of course, like all of the United States, from west to east. So what does that mean? That means when the weather comes over the jagged edges, it gets that mountain, misty, clean air. And then comes over Denver. Denver's the one that messes it up and sends it on down over to the further flatlands. The city of Denver with all the factories and everything. So I would say if you can live somewhere between the jagged edges and the flatland, which I call the rolling hills, but you can call whatever you want, the bumps. Let's call it the bumps. And those are the foothills right before it gets all steep and everything. So if you can live in there, oh, you got the fresh air coming over the jagged edges, and you don't have to worry about it hitting those factories before it gets out there over to toward Omaha. Okay, so that's the general positioning of things. But of course, the weather in Denver is sporadic at best. Okay, I mean, the snow does stick around for a long time, but that is not necessarily the best situation. See, because look, if you want snow, here's the thing with Denver. If you want snow, what do? You get in your Humvee and you drive to the mountains. What is it? Like most ski areas are what, 2 to 3 hours? Oh, my Lord. And then you can just drive home. You don't necessarily want snow in the city of Denver. Now, maybe you want a snowy Christmas, right? You want that so that when you go Christmas caroling to your neighbors and of a group of you, have enough whiskey in you that you get up the courage to go from house to house singing Christmas carols. And your neighbors sit in their living room. They're looking at presents. Maybe they're wrapping presents. And here comes a mob up to their porch singing, smelling like whiskey. And they see them on the ring, their ring alarm there, the ring camera. And for a brief second, the mother looks at the father and says, should we call the police? Because they don't know what's going on. Because very few people do Christmas caroling anymore. But maybe you want the snow in that situation because it adds to the festive nature of Christmas caroling, going from house to house. The thing about the Christmas caroling is you'll probably only last about 10 houses anyway. And the problem with it is you have two people that are good singers and you have two people that remember the words, and they're never the same people. And the rest of the people are just trying to stay half a beat behind on the lyrics so they can cheat, because they're listening to the people that know the lyrics, and then they sing just slightly behind as if they knew the lyrics the whole time. And they're completely faking it. But as I mentioned, most of these caroling groups have enough whiskey in them that they could sing Happy Birthday and people won't care, all right, because they're having a good time. They're wearing those Santa hats, all right. They're clomping around the neighborhood in their expensive LL Bean boots that haven't seen anything other than the inside of a Dodge Durango for the last, a Dodge minivan or a Dodge super SUV. Those giant SUVs that are driven by 4'10" moms, and they have to have 3 phone books to see over the edge of these giant SUVs that are driving around in Denver. I mean, these are the kind of SUVs that the military takes into overseas operations when they're, storming a town that they're going to take over. Okay. And now in Denver, you have these 4'10" moms with 3 phone books looking over the steering wheel, trying to drive this massive vehicle. All right. So that's the weather. All right. Now remember, it's an outdoor. This is what people don't get. They move there from Los Angeles or New York or from Montreal, and the next thing you know, they're like, well, it's so outdoorsy. Well, yeah. I mean, how do you not know this? People that move to Denver love the outdoors. They love to kayak. They love to mountain bike. They like to rappel and rock climbing. I mean, these are the kind of people that get up at 3 o'clock in the morning so they can be at the rock wall when the sun comes up at 5:30 in the morning. And God forbid that somebody get ahead of them. They're going to climb. They're going to be so competitive. They're going to climb next to them and try to knock the other guy off the wall so they can be the first one up. That's how bad it is. Not only do you have to be a good rock climber, you got to watch out for the other ones that are trying to pick you off. And what they'll do is they'll be climbing that rock wall, and they got these pea shooters. Remember when you were a kid, a pea shooter? You put the pea in the straw, and like a blow dart. Like a blow dart from Africa, right into your face. Boom! And they start hitting you with all of these spitballs and pea shooters and rubber band guns, maybe. Rubber band gun stretches the rubber band out and it shoots rubber bands. And you're trying to hang on the wall and you're trying to enjoy the outdoors of the Denver area. And that's how competitive it is, guys. So that's the thing. Don't move there unless you are into the outdoors or can at least appreciate it. You don't have to, you can be into gardening, but at least it's outdoors. You're not sitting around the house going, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. See what I mean? So if you can appreciate that and get into that, then this is the town for you. Now, what about the food? The food is really, really good in Denver, okay? There's certain things that don't necessarily make the cut. Sometimes the pizza isn't the best. It depends where you go. But that's really the way it is in most towns. But the thing about Denver is a lot of people catch and kill their own food. Every day they go out. They're fishing. You see people, you drive down the freeway, you see guys with deer on their hoods that they killed. And they're going to take that deer home, they're going to skin it, and they're going to eat it. And there's nothing left behind. And then they take the antlers, they make them into hat racks. They take the antlers and they take them out to the schools and they put them up on the walls of the classrooms at no charge. The antlers stick it out, and the kids have then somewhere to hang their mittens and their gloves and stuff. So the thing is that the food is. You might go to a local restaurant, for example, and order fish, for example. And they'll send a guy out right then to the stream to start fly fishing for your dinner, and they don't even tell you. And if it's a little delayed, you say, hey, we got to get to the theater, we got to get to the movies, we just want to make sure. Then they'll send another guy out. So now there's two guys fly fishing in the stream behind the restaurant to make sure you get a fresh catch. So you might be a little delayed. That's the thing. You got to accommodate the outdoor lifestyle, the fresh fish, the antlers in the classroom. You know, there's certain aspects of it that take a little getting used to, but you will. All right, now what about these touristy things that you can do in town? Because, you know, Coors has a brewery there. I mean, that's always a fun tour, going to a brewery to see how they make it, right? You always feel like you're in that show, Laverne and Shirley, when you go to these places, right? And check this out. You didn't hear this from me. I don't even know if they still have it. But when I was there, you could take a self-guided tour of the Coors Brewery, after which they would provide three beers. Now, I haven't had 3 beers in the last 3 years. So I'm not an expert on this. This might be a program that's long gone. But that's when I was there. Now, there's a place also that everybody talks about. It's called Red Sox. Now, Red Sox is an outdoor amphitheater in the mountains, in a natural amphitheater. Okay, and they've got some of the bigger names down there. They had Debbie Gibson. They had the Grand Ole Opry touring show. They had the Dolly Parton tribute band. Okay, so they've had a lot of big acts at Red Sox. Now, why do they call it Red Sox? Because, look, they want to create a consistent Instagram experience. And to do that, they ask the patrons to wear red socks. Now, here's where it gets a little crazy, and you don't have to do this, but, you know, people in Denver, they tend to take things over the top. So not only do some of these people wear red socks on their feet like you normally would, some of them pull a red sock over the top of their head. And then they cut a hole so they can see out, and now it looks like what we would call a stocking cap or a face mask cap, but it's a red sock that they pulled over their head, and sometimes they put them on their arms, and they're out of control. They turn them into belts, right? So you don't have to go through all that rigmarole, but Red Sox gets those big acts that I talked about. Okay, there's a Chicago tribute band, okay, that's called Milwaukee, and they play a lot of the Chicago hits. Okay, so for example, you might have heard of a song called 25 or 64, okay, by Chicago. They do a version. It's called 13 divided by 2 is too hard for me to figure out without a calculator. That's the name of their song. So there's just so much going on. That's the thing about Denver. There's so much to do. People don't realize all of the exciting and cool things to do. You can go to they have a mint where they make the money. They have a mint in town. You can go down there and you just say, hey man, I don't want to take the tour, but just give me some of their money. And what they'll do then is a black SUV will roll up behind you, and 3 guys in black suits will get out and throw you in the back, drive you to Littleton, and then throw you onto a gravel road. So you don't want to do that, but you can take a tour of the mint, I believe. And it's been a while since I've been there, but you know what I'm saying? The U.S. Mint, where they make the money, they make it down there. They got a big Hewlett-Packard inkjet printer, just like the one at your work probably. And they put in the software. They pull up a picture of $1 or whatever it is, and they print it right out there. And then some of these people are printing a few extra copies to take home, the people that work there. You don't think that people... Have you ever met somebody from the U.S. Mint? Have you seen what they drive? Come on now. They're printing a few extra copies of the 20s and the 50s to take home. You know, what they'll say is, oh, I just need to check the print quality. I just need to check the ink consistency. Yeah. Meanwhile, they're breaking out those kitchen scissors that are in the junk drawer, and they're cutting up those extra copies and putting them in their wallet. And then they go down to that Coors Brewery, and they get the free tour, then they go to the gift shop and pass off some of these extra copies that they made at home on the Hewlett, on their own Hewlett Packard. So who knows? Who knows? But meanwhile, they're driving a $90,000 truck, and you're like, wow, I got to get a job at the U.S. Mint. Well, all right. Well, here's a real positive thing in case you are really thinking about moving there, is that they have lots of jobs. And the part of that is a reflection of the overall economy right now. Once again, we've mortgaged our future with even higher deficits in order to have the short-term sugar high of lots of jobs and low unemployment. But that's take advantage of it. What it is, what it is. So in Denver, that they've got jobs because the whole country has jobs, and Denver is a place people want to live. So go down there. Now look, don't go just standing outside of the city limits going, hey man, I want me a job. And don't go walking through the Starbucks. Anybody got it? Hey, any of y'all got around here got a job? There's better ways. You don't want to go through the mall in Littleton or one of the suburbs there and go, hey, any of y'all, like on the escalator as you're going up and the people are coming down. You don't want to lean into them and go, hey man, which one of y'all's got a job for me? Okay, I'm a trained dishwasher. I can sew up a hole. You got your socks? I can sew it up, fix that right up. Don't do that. Just what you want to do is narrow down your industry, what you're interested in, and then do it the way most people do it. Get a resume together, and then contact those companies, and in a very short order, you're going to have a job. Now, you might need a job before you get the job you want. So you might have to take what they call a survival job or a cash flow job, or so that could be working in fast food. That could be working at the mall selling shoes. That could be delivering food, for Postmates or one of those. That could be whatever it is. Who cares? The thing is, in Denver, they say take action or get out of the way. So as long as you're moving forward and achieving your goals, nobody cares what you're doing. And the reason why is that things are moving so fast. They are on their own trajectory. They are on their path to success. And if your paths meet, and you can, you see what I'm saying? So don't worry about that you're selling socks at the mall, or that you had to step into a Walmart stocking situation. It doesn't matter. You and I know that's not going to be your end of your career. That's going to be the beginning. And Denver is a good place to get it all launched, because you can move up and move on, and there's move into management, move into top positions within your field. There's just so much going on. I'm just saying, don't walk around downtown going, I need myself a job. Which one of you people in suits and ties over here are going to give me a job, or do I need to start singing, right? And then you breaking into old Conway Twitty songs. I don't think that's the way to go about it. All right, so plenty of jobs. Now, here's the thing, is that there are some cons to living in Denver. Let's go through of them. So the biggest con of Denver is Californians. The Coloradoans, they're fine. It's those transplants from LA and San Francisco and, God forbid, probably even Fresno, coming over and then acting like they own the place. You don't own the place, you just showed up. So that's one thing. Hipsters are another. I thought the hipsters the whole hipster thing would have died out by now. Yes, you have a 3-foot beard. That's cool. And you have a custom beard oil that you made in your basement. Okay, by blending together essential oils and motor oil. I get it. You're on. But so I'm just saying, if you don't like hipsters, you're probably going to have a little difficulty in town, because that's every other person. All right, now, as it is in Washington, and in Dallas, and in Houston, and in Atlanta, and in LA, and in everywhere, there's bad drivers, everywhere. But Denver has a special breed of bad driver. And this is the person that they fake that they're a good driver, Meanwhile, they're driving all over the road. They're not stopping at four-way stops and taking their turn in the right way. They're blowing past any kind of stop sign as if it didn't exist. And, you know, the whole time with the smile on their face and, you know, a look on their face as if they just got a phone call from God himself. So it's this innocent look, but it's a look of the Lord on their face, but they're driving like the devil. And I can't quite figure out how that is or how they're able to do that, but I would just keep your eyes peeled and keep your head on a swivel in Denver, because they're going to come at you from all directions. Now, I would say 40% of those devil drivers are Californians. And the reason that they drive so crazy is that it's a matter of survival out there. If you don't drive and take out a few cars on the way to work, you aren't driving well enough. You aren't being aggressive enough. So in California, you need to take out 2 or 3 cars. You need to force them off the road. But on your way to work and on the way home, it helps to take out 5 or 6 more, because you know what I mean? So that keeps the roads a little more open. That's the whole idea there. Now, you're going to get a few dents in your car doing it that way. Now, Colorado and Denver haven't got to that point yet, but they do have this deceitful driver that shows you one way, shows you one face, and then they drive like another. So you just got to be careful. That's all I'm saying. All right, now the difficulty with a city that's growing as fast, one of the difficulties of the city that's growing as fast as Denver, is the city has not been able to keep up in terms of the traffic flow. First of all, there's too many cars, so the roads are getting worn down faster. That means more construction, and that means more delays. But also, the traffic lights don't seem to match up. So you sit there for, you know, a long time, and then it finally goes green, and then you speed up to the speed limit, and then you have to stop at the next light. There doesn't seem to be any flow. I don't completely blame the people that run the stoplights and the engineers and all that, the city, because what you have is a fast-growing town with 40% to 45% Californians that are killer drivers that grew up. And their driver's ed, they learned to run people off the road. And they're going to try that in Denver. So it's hard to maintain the traffic lights in any kind of sequence that makes sense. But they're getting better at it. But just be aware that it can be frustrating. So we talked about the traffic. We talked about the expense. All right. So it used to be you could get a house in Denver, and I'm talking about 1990. You could buy a 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house with a decent lawn and a 2-car garage for like $70,000, maybe $35,000 in 1990. But now that house is $650,000, and the difference is nothing. There's zero difference. It's just that so many people are moving to Denver because of all those positives we talked about: the fresh air, the friendly people, the food, okay, all of those things. Speaking of which, I didn't mention the friendly people. So let's go back. One of the pros is the friendly people. You have the friendliest people of a big city. If there was a statistic that measured friendliness versus size of city, or friendliness per capita, or however you do it, number 1 would be Denver. There is a long history in the West, and Denver being one of the leading cities of the Old West. And ever since the days of when John Denver's grandfather named the city after himself, when he settled there after moving from West Virginia back in the 1800s, and establishing that friendly John Denver vibe has permeated through the whole city. And so you could go, for example, to the city hall. You could walk into the State House. And you could go in or even local Denver courthouses and political offices, and just say, hey, how y'all doing? Do you mind if I come in and sit a spell? And they'll go, come on in, man. We just made some tea, and they'll break out the tea. They'll give you some coffee. They might even pull a brew for you. and they will talk to you. Now, partly this is a government worker's way of avoiding work completely. So don't be completely fooled. So if they work at the state, or they work at the county, they work at the city, half the goal of the job is to not do anything at all. So if you come in and ask if you can just set a spell and kibitz, shoot the baloney, they will welcome that because it allows them to get away from pretending they're doing something constructive. Okay, so that is one of the very great features that you can't overstate this, guys. The friendliness of the city will. Well, when you first move there from a bigger city or a more urban area, you're going to be on guard. You're going to be, what's going on? What's the joke? Because these people are too friendly, and I know that that's probably because they're taking the wheels off my car right now. As this person is talking to me, his partners in crime are probably lifting my car up and taking the wheels off, and maybe even removing the engine. Okay, that's how you're going to think. Then you go back to your car and it's completely intact. Now there are some crime, but for the most part, they're friendly people that are not going to steal your car for the most part. So that's a major positive. All right. So then let's go back to the negatives. We talked about the traffic. We talked about the expense, and the expense permeates down to the food. I mean, you used to be able to get a hamburger in 1990 in Denver for like 16 cents, 17 cents. And they would charge you 18 if you asked for ketchup. They're like, man, you're in here every day asking for ketchup. And then the bigger question is, why are you putting ketchup on a perfectly good hamburger? But that's a whole different issue. So now that same hamburger is $17.95. Well, what happened? Well, the secret got out. I mean, just like Coors was this secret for a long time, and everybody thought it was this exotic beer. Same thing, Denver as a secret got out. And also people got sick of taking 3 hours to go 4 blocks in Los Angeles. That's exactly what happened. And probably Seattle, same, and probably Chicago, you know what I mean? They're coming from all over. They just throw everything in the U-Haul. Anything that doesn't fit in the U-Haul, they just leave on the side of the road with a free sign that says free stuff. A sign that says take what you want. And then they hightail it to Denver. So not just the real estate is not the only thing that's expensive. Cars are expensive. The food is more expensive. But it's still not as expensive as New Jersey, as Philadelphia. You see what I mean? So that's why people are leaving those towns, even in Philly, where they can get a cheesesteak on every corner. To leave that and come to Denver is a big step, and that's exactly what the step people are taking. Well, I think that gives you a quick snapshot of the pros and cons of Denver, and to help you answer the question, should I move to Denver? I say yes, you should. But I would also say keep these things in mind that I was talking about. And we're going to have more on this topic. I just wanted to get the basics out there because I get so many questions about this all the time. And probably your best bet, because there's people showing up that have never seen Denver other than on TV or in pictures or online or whatever. Take a visit. Go visit for a week. Come on. You're going to get some fresh air. You're going to relax. You're going to get away from those crazy relatives of yours. And you'll get a much better idea of the city and what it'll take to move, and you can do it. I believe in you. Well, I made most of this up on the top of my head, so keep that in mind. This is a parody video. Like I said, I was going to remind you a couple times. In the beginning, I had mentioned it, and I'm mentioning it again, so that what it does, it cuts down on nasty comments. One of my comedian friends says, "Oh, why do you tell them that it's a parody?" I go, "Well, because if I don't, they get all mad, and that's not my goal. That's not my goal." All right. So I hope that helps. If you have any comments or questions, leave them right here on the YouTube or get at me on the Twitter machine, however you want to communicate, and I'll talk to you soon.